If a single battle in history had a different outcome, the world would be completely changed. Maybe the Roman Empire would still be around. Maybe you could have a girlfriend instead of watching some random Romanian guy with no pants on make EU4 videos. But that didn't happen, and that's why you're watching this video. And since we are on the topic of different outcomes, today we'll be showing what the alternate history mod that is Ante Bellum has to offer. If we get 10,000 likes on the video, I'm gonna cover another mod, the World of Warcraft to EU4. In case you didn't know, things went very differently in this mod, and Ante Bellum has a super interesting map of Europe with a lot of different countries that you would not expect. Francia is the emperor of the HRE rather than Austria, which doesn't exist by the way. We have Styria, Carniola, and Tyrol, which can eventually form Austria, and a lot of other goodies around. We only have the 1444 start date, and in the recent update for Ante Bellum, they've improved the nation of Seljuks with a ton of new flavor. So let's start up as these guys. You're even presented with a really well written set of events when you start the game. So if you don't have this enabled, remember to enable it so you can read it up a little bit on the history of what happened in the world of Ante Bellum, as it is a great idea to get your lore from these pop-ups. So Seljuks start off with a really cool mission tree that is super in not just conquer this, conquer that, and eventually leads you over to establish the greatest Turkish empire in the world. Before we continue, today's sponsor is Ace Defender, an SRPG which combines turn-based RPG battles with tower defense elements. It has 40 chapters with 48 heroes, each with unique background stories that you can take on adventure throughout the PvE dungeon and regions to level up, or PvP arena to fight other players on speeds of up to 6 times. A new hero, Brenda the Demon Spear, has been added, and she's epic in both PvP and PvE since she both heals herself and limits the opponent's damage. A mysterious new world called the Realm of Deities will soon be available, and it will allow you to build your castle, develop technology, and train soldiers to conquer the city for endless treasures, as well as defeat monsters, get rewards, and gain more power for your heroes through magical research. New users that use my link will get 10 royal recruit tickets after completing level 8 in chapter 2. Use tickets by clicking Sky City Tavern recruit 10 times. If you enjoy EU4, you're definitely going to enjoy Ace Defender, so take advantage of the boost you get by using my link in the description. Even though the Legacy of the Seljuks update focuses on the Seljuks, it also adds a ton of flavor to the Byzantines, to Nicaea. The Byzantines alone get over 50 plus missions, and granted, the first ones will eventually get rid of the starting debuffs that you have here that basically reproduce a very historically accurate Byzantine Empire. But as you go along in this mission tree, you see some of these are actually insanely fun to do. For example, the beacon system gives you the ability to unlock Light of the Beacons that gives 15 movement speed in provinces for 1 monthly military mana cost. You can also create the Theodosian Wall project in Constantinople, because apparently at the start you don't have that. Also, you might have noticed Osman decided not to form a beylik of his own, but he became a trader, and Osman, or the Ottoman Empire, is a trade empire of sorts in this game. I'm not going to spoil other things, let's just say they do play a certain role. You can also get Revenge for Manzikert, which I'm not sure what it implies, but I do think it might have something to do with the cultures in these areas, perhaps. You can also get Crownlands and more permanent modifiers from the missions. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen so many permanent modifiers in any of the mission trees I've ever seen up to now. All provinces in the Delta and Bahari area, that's the north of Egypt, get these massive 25% modifiers for goods produced in manpower. That alone is going to make a massive difference once you take back the Egyptian lands, because these already are pretty high dev provinces. So once you've actually increased the dev in these two areas, it's going to be insane the amount of manpower and income that you're going to get from these parts. Another really cool instance is Magna Graecia. You can make all the Wallachian, Moldovan, and Transylvanian provinces Romanian, and it adds Romanian as an accepted culture. So despite these starting off as 3 different cultures, it will unify them into one, and that one culture is going to be accepted, meaning you're not going to get any debuffs from holding these provinces. That's also a super cool thing to see. Obviously, the best thing is once you've actually gotten the Imperial Restoration, you get all power cost minus 5%. That in itself itself is insanely overpowered, but it's going to be a long way for the Byzantines to actually reach that point. By the way, I'm actually thinking doing a campaign as either the Byzantines or Nicaea, because Nicaea actually has the ability to form a Hellenistic Roman Empire. They actually have a series of events that let them get back Hellenism, and as such, you can really LARP that true Roman ancient empire as the Nicaeans. The Nicaeans actually have a very similar mission tree to the Byzantines, but it does branch off massively. It does focus a little bit more on getting rid of the Turkish menace, as they call it here, from the Anatolian parts, and it does have the similar mission of avenge Manzikert, a little bit of Greek nationalism on the side, and the Nicenian ideas are pretty great too, with land force limit, discipline. It's actually a really good mix of both military, naval, and blobbing ideas from what I noticed. Plus, they got the sprites that the Byzantines have in default vanilla EU4, which is a great addition, but I actually like the sprites that they made themselves for Ante Bellum. One more thing that in this update actually makes a massive difference is the fact that, like, for example, the Caspian Sea is navigable. That means you can have ships here, and that means there's harbors in every single one of these provinces around it, so you don't need to go around the entirety of the Caspian Sea to conquer stuff. You can just go from one side to the other if you have the ships to do it. And whilst we are at the Caspian Sea, let's also talk a little bit about the Ilkhanate, which has two options. You can either restore the Mongol Empire as them, or you can choose to go full-on Persian, and that essentially means it blocks out the Mongol Empire path, but it allows you to form the nation of Persia should you wish to. Of course, if you do decide to form Persia, you can always keep the national ideas. Remember though that you're actually on your way towards becoming a horde if you want to, so if you do decide to form the Mongol Empire, it's probably the stronger option. Similarly to the Ilkhanate, the Seljuks have three paths. They can either choose to become an Arab kingdom of sorts, they can choose to become a Turkic kingdom, or go back to their roots and become the Turanic Empire, which is a special tag akin to the Mongol Empire. You get this via your branching missions depending on what choices you make. All you gotta do is navigate this over here and go for the decisions that matter once the events pop out. So do make sure you pay attention when you see the events popping out. So up next, let's talk about the political changes that have happened in this mod, as well as the cultural and the religious changes, shall we? Politically speaking, we have a lot of new nations here. Silesia is not a vassal of Bohemia, and Silesia is a Slavic religion nation together with most of the nations in the eastern part of what we know as Germany. While in this timeline, the Germans did not colonize this area, it is still Slavic, West Slavic for that matter. In fact, the West Slavs even have parts of Pannonia, with Pannonian being a part of the West Slavic culture group, whilst the Hungarians have a larger foothold in the Transylvanian parts than in Vanilla, with Zekilis having their own country as a vassal of the Magyars, not Hungarians. Apparently they didn't switch over to Hungary, they just kept their Magyar roots. And because of that, they're also Tengri. We have Tengri in the middle of Europe. That is absolutely brilliant, not gonna lie. The HRE looks a lot different. Essentially what I think happened is during the split up of the Frankish Empire under Charlemagne, we still have Lotharingia. So that means it's still split up in three different parts, with the Germanic part to the east, the Frankish part to the west, and in the center the Lotharingians, which are not a part of the empire, so some family feud definitely happened there. But the east and the west still managed to stay a part of the same nation, and they are all a part of the Holy Roman Empire, which we all know is the most holiest, Romanist, and empirist thing in the world. The Reconquista pretty much failed here. We still have a lot of Catholic provinces and a lot of Castilian and so on provinces, with the cores of Castile existing pretty much everywhere in the northern parts, and the cores of Aragon existing as well. But the problem is Andalusia won that Reconquista, and now the struggling survivors of Asturias, Galicia, and Navarra are doing their best not to get eaten up by the Andalusians, who basically have completely wiped out the Portuguese, apparently, with Galician being the only culture here on the western parts of the Iberian Peninsula aside from Andalusian. The Shia Emirate of Sicily is still around. If you didn't know, historically, Sicily at one point as a country was a Muslim kingdom that eventually got conquered by the Normans, I believe, and then they established the Kingdom of Naples with Sicily as a vassal. In this timeline, obviously, the Normans probably didn't win much and they got their asses kicked. Capua is independent and it is a duchy as a vassal of the Papal States. That's actually really interesting. And I'm happy to see that they actually made map changes as well. So basically they added new provinces too in the base game rather than just edit the provinces that we had from before. France pretty much has the same vassals that it has at the start, with the exception that it's got a lot more provinces to itself. Burgundy is divided in the upper and the lower Burgundian kingdoms, as well as Britannia is an ally of Lotharingia, so perhaps a Lotharingian and Breton alliance can defeat Franks. Who's to say? Probably not, to be fair. Wales is independent, as is Cornwall, and that's actually quite surprising. I would have imagined they'd get easily raffle-stomped by the English. Culturally speaking, the English and the Dutch are in the same culture group, so that is very interesting. The Dutch languages, with Frisian actually being the closest out of all Germanic languages to the English language, in case you didn't know in our timeline. Denmark also owns one province here in the Hull region, and apparently Denmark is still Norse. In fact, all of the north except Sweden is Norse, which is weird because Sweden technically was the last of the Nordic kingdoms to become Catholic. It kept its Norse identity for a lot longer than all the other kingdoms around it, making this a really interesting scenario. Romuva also exists as a religion in the Lithuanian parts, as you would expect, with the old Prussians having the region of Pruthenia under themselves, Samogitia and Lithuania being the two Lithuanian kingdoms, and Livonia being independent. Culturally speaking also, all of these guys are in the same culture group, with Estonian being in the Finnish culture group, which makes a lot of sense. In fact, this would be pretty accurate in our timeline also to make this particular culture group right here. I would love to see this in the default vanilla 1444 for that matter. Finland being independent, kind of pepega, not gonna lie. Definitely weakens the Swedes, but I guess there is some reason for that to happen, right? Sapmi being independent is really nice to see as well. Gives a lot of flavor in this area in case you want to start in the north of Europe. And the fact that they got their own Suamensko religion around still is not really plausible, but I love it. I actually like it. I like to see so many different religions in here, not just Catholic and Orthodox everywhere. Being in the middle of Europe is my favorite, but then you also have Vajrayana over here, as apparently the Golden Horde is Tengri, so they did not choose to become a Sunni country. They chose to stay Tengri, and they syncretized with the Vajrayanas, which means that the Golden Horde is a lot stronger than the Great Horde is in the base game. I like what they did in the east actually. Moscow is a 4-province minor with no vassals of any sort, and there's gonna be a massive battle royale happening here. I can feel it. Everybody's independent, nobody's got any alliances or any vassals, and Vladimir, the precursor of Moscow, is also around apparently, with Nizhny Novgorod appearing too, and Vologda too as well. Not to mention, the Lithuanians did not get a massive grasp over the Ukrainian nations or Ruthenian nations, so that's why they're also very much so independent. That also means that Moldova and Wallachia have a better chance at forming Romania whenever that happens. And switching over to the most beautiful part of the map, the Balkans. Definitely not biased. Hashtag I am Romanian. And your wallet is gone. Hey, hey, it's a joke. It's a joke. Except it's actually gone now and you're gonna sue me. Damn it, don't do it. Don't do it. My favorite part here is the nation of Baks, which is essentially a Hungarian culture Tengri nation that is a vassal of the Magyars. I want to know the reasoning here. I want to know why Baks is separate from the rest of the Magyars. Is it some dynastic feud? Is it something that happened along the way? What is the reasoning, sir? Also want to say I absolutely love the flag of Ragusa. It's super cool and very different from the standard flags. Also, Serbia's flag is pretty cool, and the map color even. Something different. I like it. Apparently, Bosnian is divided between the Serbs and the Croats, with all the Bosnian lands being Orthodox. Venice's color is actually more historical. The reality is this is a lot more closer to the preferred color of the Venetians, and the flag is also the historical flag of Venice. So even though this is an alternate reality mod and an alternate history mod, this is actually the accurate flag of Venice. The Bulgarians are massive next door to the Byzantines, and I think Byzantines can make for a really cool playthrough. So if you guys want me to do an Ante Bellum proper playthrough, let me know in the comment section. I would love to do a Byzantium in Ante Bellum and crush over the Seljuks that just got updated and prove that Byzantines ruled the waves. No, wait, rule Anatolia. Clearly, this fort over here has to go. I'm not playing, but I'm still doing it because it has to be done, okay? It's a useless fort. I love the fact that the knights are still in the same position. Apparently, nothing happened with them. They got the walls of Rhodos though that offer some insane modifiers, not gonna lie. Let's actually check the great project map. Whoa, that's a lot of great projects, boyos. Pirate Haven of Medina. Wow, okay, interesting. There's definitely a lot more monuments in this game than in vanilla. The Great Stables of Zeget. Ooh, when upgraded you get a general with 100 tradition and you get Cav Shock +1. That's actually ridiculously overpowered, not gonna lie. I definitely feel like this mod is more focused outside of the Achery than anything else, but I know a lot of people like to play in the Achery. Let's actually check out the rest of the world though. Nizarids are a thing apparently, and you can also colonize these areas of the Sahara. Interesting. These can actually act as a sort of a shortcut around these parts, so that's good to have them actually. The Nizarids are proper Egyptians, not like the Mamluks are in our timeline. And Jerusalem is a thing too. Apparently they didn't get completely raffle stomped, and their independence is guaranteed by Venice. The Cilician Armenians are around, and they are Coptic Armenians, of course. Look at that divide over there. Brothers separated by another culture altogether. The Kurds and the Turks came into play. Whoa, what did I just notice here? The Ilkhanat's around. What? And they mainly have Armenian Coptic lands with some Azerbaijani. There's Nestorians here, and there's Zoroastrian. The Ilkhanat is a Zoroastrian nation. Oh no, they're Tangri, and they syncretized with the Zoroastrians because there's apparently a lot of Zoroastrians here. See, in my opinion, if you're gonna leave this as Zoroastrian, you should not make all of these lands Sunni, because Zoroastrians, if they didn't get converted or struggle to get converted, Islam would not reach these parts afterwards. Oh my god, Nestorian. That's a lot of Nestorians in the Horde lands. And this is very plausible, by the way, because the Mongols actually were massive fans of the Nestorian version of Christianity, and were even thinking of making it the official religion of the Mongol Empire. It didn't happen, but they were close to it according to historical records. Yuan also is around apparently, and the Manchurian lands are almost the same like vanilla, with the difference being that Aisinjoro is in here. Isn't this the name of the Hoi 4 Manchukuo leader? Did this guy travel back in time and name a country after himself? What's happening here? Oh, that's actually really interesting. So apparently the shogunate is very different here. Toyuji is the shogun and everybody else is its daimyo, but Kamakura, which used to be a shogun also, by the way, is also a thing, and they're an independent daimyo together with Uesugi, Takeda, and all the eastern daimyos. So all the eastern daimyos are independent, and all the western ones are basically vassals of Toyuji. I might even give it a try to play a little bit in the Japanese islands. This looks super freaking interesting, man. I don't think they've done anything in the Indonesian parts. They're almost the same like vanilla. Same for the Indo-Chinese peninsula, and for India for that matter, and the Timurids for that matter. Actually, only thing that I see different is the religions close to the Timurids. Yeah, I'm 100% sure they didn't touch this at all actually now. So maybe in future updates they will touch that area. Persia is Zoroastrian from the beginning, with the flag being the flag of the Empire of Persia, and it looks actually really cool. I like the flag. In fact, I like the artwork that they've done in this mod a lot. They put in a lot of work in the art, that's for sure. And I believe that they're working on it region by region, which is why right now the highlight is in this region, as they've literally just redone this particular area for this particular update. There's also a road system in that offers you dev cost reduction, trade power, movement speed, and a few other goodies. And you can upgrade this to a gravel road, a royal road, macadam road, I have no idea what that means, and a railroad later down the line. Railroad, hold on a second. There's also a few changes to the discovery system. We have the Age of Industrialization with the Scramble for Africa, Industrial Revolution, Imperial Army. Oh dude, I actually want to play down into the late game now to see what that's up about. I don't see any changes to the base bonuses, but I do see changes to these. The special bonuses are the Nizarid ones and Andalusian ones. So Andalusia is going to be the new colonial power in this game. Swedish Crusade, interesting. And Resurgent Moravia, which I'm assuming is a reference to Greater Moravia, trying to take back all of its rightful clay, right? One thing I really like is the fact that in order to restore the Roman Empire, you only need Italy, the Balkans, and Anatolia, Egypt, and Iraq, rather than the rest of the world here. You don't need any of the Western European parts, except the city city of Cordoba and Tunis. So you can actually restore the Roman Empire fairly easily as the Byzantines if you only need these cities. And I wish this was a feature in the base EU4 game as well. The government changes to an empire, and we also get the Roman culture. So it's literally the same like the base game here. There's new icons for the Orthodox people as well, with reform, progress, growth, and unrest reduction, stability cost modifier, and morale of armies, as well as war score versus other religions. So that's cool to see. Icon of Nestorius. Yeah, that's why we have the Nestorian religion. There you go. The Orthodox have an icon of the guy who started his religion over here. Also interesting to see is that Turkish is a part of the Tatar group, or the Altai group, which includes the actual Turkish cultures in real life, and then the Oirats are a part of the Mongolian group, which are the eastern parts. This is the real way of actually showing these cultures, with the east and the west being massively different, and Turkish being a part of the same group with Turkmeni, Uzbek, Kyrgyz, and so on, whilst Egyptians being a part of the Arabian group. Although personally I think that Egyptians should be their own group. I know that's not possible because then they would be too small of a group by themselves. And true, the language is the same, but culturally speaking there are massive differences between the Egyptians and the Arabian parts of the Arab speaking world. Egyptian Arabic is kind of like US English compared to UK English, which is like the Arabian Peninsula Arabic spoken. What I really want to know is, how did Kumania end up being in this area here? How did they get pushed out of here? Or maybe they just never ended up there. They just came directly here together with the Alans. This is really interesting right there. And then the fact that Georgia remained an Orthodox nation is also pretty interesting. Apparently we have the Sarukhanids, which are a Zoroastrian Turkish people. I'm sorry, is their hand actually the hand of Saruman with the Zoroastrian icon below that? Sarukhanids? This is such a Lord of the Rings reference. It's insane. So I'm assuming that the dev team really likes the Lord of the Rings. Is that what's happening here? Because I approve of this. There's also some new advisors, such as the Aggressive Expansion Impact Advisor and the Religious Unity Advisor, together with the Construction Cost and the Corruption Advisors. So there's definitely a lot of new choices for advisors. Oh wow, Saruman even has its own mission tree. Interesting. Most nations have their own unique national ideas, of course, and there are a couple of new overall idea groups, such as the Professional Ideas, that revolve around having a professional army, even giving you 15 morale of armies, artillery damage from back row plus 15% for the multiplayer games, and for the late game this is actually massive. You even can get minus 10 dev cost reduction mixed in with humanist, so if you like playing tall, this is a really good idea set. State governance also is in here with added governing capacity modifier, years of separatism reduction, autonomy reduction, dev cost reduction, and admin efficiency. Actually, this is probably my favorite idea group right now. It has everything you need: admin efficiency for blobbing, dev cost for playing tall, and autonomy change to have proper autonomy reduction in your provinces. And as expected, they got some seriously great policies when mixed in with other idea sets. There's also the imperial ideas that offer diplo relations, AE reduction again, extra diplomats, civilization cost, and acceptance plus 10. Essentially, this is great if you're playing as the emperor or somebody who's got a lot of vassals that need to be integrated and made a part of your country. Here's a list of all the formidable nations that you have in this mod as well, and some of them are extremely juicy. And by the way, the Asian parts is super playable, the East Asian parts especially. Yuan is the celestial emperor, and the rebellions in the south are definitely something that are gonna try to challenge you if you start as Yuan, or if you start as the rebellions, you can challenge Yuan to get the emperorship. And when it comes to the Japanese islands, as you can see, there's definitely a lot of flavor. As I said before, the eastern parts are essentially independent daimyos, whilst these guys in the west are still a part of the old system. They even made some new sprites here. I like the new sprites, not gonna lie. The great part is that I feel like some of these things are actually plausible. The Seljuks could still have been around in 1444 and the Ottomans not been around, with the Greeks holding the western parts of Anatolia. At the end of the day, the reason the Byzantines fell was because the Ottomans were one of the most aggressive out of all the Beyliks conflicts, and in the absence of the Ottomans, and the Seljuks still retaining some sort of unity amongst all the Turkic tribes, it really could have proven to be of use and beneficial for the Byzantine Empire. That being said, Saruman is the true Turkic overlord, everybody knows that. And guys, if you like me to do more videos like these, let me know in the comment section what other mods you enjoy playing and you would like me to cover, as there's a lot of mods out there, and I want to make sure I cover something that you guys all enjoy playing. Also, don't forget, for 10,000 likes, we'll cover the other Warcraft mod. And if you manage to get up to this video and you're not subscribed, why are you so mean? Just click the subscribe button, okay? Also, click here to check out my England or Western Europe video. And I want to give a very big thank you to all of my channel members, Patreon members, as well as my Twitch supporters. I really wouldn't be able to do this without all of your support. You guys are absolutely amazing.